John Ley joins me now. John is a retired airline pilot. He keeps a close eye on a lot of transit issues, and there are some of those we could talk about. But most importantly, right now, he is a candidate for the Washington House of Reps, District 18, Position 2. John, welcome back.
Hey, Lars, thanks so much. As always, I appreciate any opportunity to be on with you and your listeners. There's a whole host of transportation-related things that are at the forefront. As you and I know, the I-5 Interstate Bridge is the largest public works project in the history of the Portland metro area, and tolling is at the forefront of people's minds as the bridge is demanding up to $1.6 billion in tolls. And so recently, there's some news people need to be aware of. The state legislature had limited the maximum tolls on the I-5 bridge to whatever the highest rate in the state is. Well, today that's $15 each way, but right now as we speak, the State Transportation Commission is considering raising Puget Sound area tolls on I-405 and 167 to $18. So that means for Portland and Southwest Washington drivers, this is a huge red flag. Tolls for the I-5 bridge could be as high as $18 each way in the future. That'd be $9,000, which would be devastating for most families here in the area.
$18 each way? John, when you first told me it was going to 18, I thought, well, hold on. We've talked about $9 as a round trip cost. Now we're going to basically double that?
Yeah, exactly right. And then more importantly is the fact that in a 2-year time frame, maximum tolls have gone up potentially 80% in Washington state. Used to be $10 each trip up in the Puget Sound, and they're moving fast towards an $18 each trip. And so that's how quickly all this can change. And it's just outrageous. And that's why the stop on this is to never let tolling be implemented on the I-5 bridge or anywhere else here in the Portland metro area.
Well, and by the way, one of the things about tolling is I've had people say, isn't it illegal to toll an interstate freeway in America? And the short answer is yes. And you can ask for an exemption, but that exemption has to come from the federal government, from, at this point, the government of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, which they're only supposed to give that kind of exemption, and they've only done that around America, when you can say, and we're going to take the money and we're going to make a major transportation improvement. Well, building a bridge over again at the same size with even less of it set aside for cars and trucks and more of it for bicycles and pedestrians, I don't think that counts as an improvement. Do you?
No, it's a very expensive joke on the people in the Portland and Southwest Washington area. Right now, basically the I-5 Interstate Bridge corridor at 3 lanes in each direction exceeded its design capacity back in the 1990s. I-205 exceeded its design capacity in the early 2000s. And so clearly we need about 5 lanes in each direction on I-5 at the Interstate Bridge. And if you are looking at the reality of this being an asset that would be around for the next century, you would need 6, 7, 8 lanes in each direction in order to handle the projected traffic growth. And so it's unconscionable to me that they would look at spending 7, 8, maybe $10 billion and designing a bridge that'll be over-congested on day one when it opens.
And by the way, John, I've had some people who aren't, they aren't as enthralled with this subject as you and I are, say, well, but Lars, there are only 3 lanes going onto the bridge and 3 lanes coming off. And I said, yeah, that's true. And they said, well, why build a 4 or 5 or 6 lane bridge each way? And I said, because if you build the 3-lane bridge, then that will be their argument from now for the next century, saying there's no point in building more freeway leading to the bridge or leading from the bridge because the bridge is the choke point, that it doesn't make any sense. And they will lock that in. Right now, because you could rebuild the bridge and build it bigger, you could do that, and then there would be an open invitation to say, well, add a 4th lane or a 5th lane. But once they get this little linchpin in, they can forever prevent any kind of expansion of the freeways that lead to and from the Columbia River crossing, right?
Exactly right. And short answer on that, somebody's got to go first. You got to start expanding and adding vehicle capacity somewhere. And this would be the extremely logical place if you want to build a bigger pipeline, so to speak, to handle the vehicle traffic. Additional common sense solutions are adding a third bridge, a fourth bridge, et cetera. And the local government officials don't want to talk about a third or a fourth bridge until they get this platform for light rail built. But bottom line is we've got to add vehicle capacity. We are the 8th worst for traffic congestion in the nation, and it's been getting worse almost every year because local politicians refuse to add vehicle capacity. And so we need to serve the people. We need to add vehicle capacity and save people time. That's what they want. Something on the order of 80% of the citizens polled by the IBR said, we want to reduce traffic congestion and save time. And yet they ignore that reality.
And by the way, I want to tell you about something going on with Sound Transit that I just caught today. They've opened a brand new parking garage that's supposed to serve the light rail line. This one is it Linwood? No, it's not Linwood. When the light rail line reached Linwood, they said, well, we've got to build the biggest parking garage that we've ever built. Well, they built it at 1,600 spaces. Guess what? It's full to overflowing every single day. And they said, oh, well, then what you should do is go home, park your car, take a bus to the light rail station and get on light rail. Do you know what most people do? They say, I don't have time for that. They get on the freeway and they drive in. So their goal was to get more people riding. And yet their messaging is the garage is going to be full every time you drive there. There's no point in doing it. And the idea that the average person is going to take even more time to take a bus, to then take a train, to then take, and then once you get off the train, take another bus to where you're going. It's like Sound Transit is self-sabotaging itself. And I know why. They don't want to accommodate cars. That's John Ley. John is running for the state legislature. I voted for him. I encourage you to vote for him as well if you still have a ballot in your hot little hands. You're listening to the Lars Larson Show and the Radio Northwest Network.